This video is going to cover chapter 37 of Ecce Romani, pages 98, 99, and 100, deponent verbs. So deponent verbs in Latin, we say have passive forms, but active meanings. So they are neither passive nor active, but they're somewhere in the middle. Again, they are passive forms. That means that the endings, the verb endings on a deponent verb, are the passive endings that we know, aris, tur, mur, miniuntur. But the meaning, the translation of a deponent verb is going to be active. So it's a split between the meanings and the endings. Again, deponent verbs one more time. The forms are passive, the endings are passive, but the meaning, the translation of a deponent verb is active. It sounds more confusing than it actually is, as we'll come to learn shortly here. Deponent verbs only have three principal parts. Normal, regular verbs in Latin, as we know, have four. Deponent verbs only have three principal parts. Here's an example of a deponent verb: conor, conari, conatus, sum. Obviously, only three principal parts, which we'll take a look at again in more detail in just a second. One last thing we want to know about them: the perfect participle of a deponent verb is going to be translated actively. What do I mean when I say that? Well, if you take that third principal part and take off the sum, conatus, or in the plural, conati, that's going to be translated having tried. For a regular verb, if we did that, that would be having been tried. That would be a perfect passive participle. Deponent verbs, we can't say that they're technically passive, so this is just a perfect participle. Again, conati, having tried, and we'll see that here and there when we're translating. Let's take a look at these principal parts. Conor, the first principal part, well, that's going to be the present tense. That's no different than the first principal part of a regular verb. Conor is going to be the present tense. The second principal part is going to follow that same pattern. It's going to be an infinitive, a present infinitive, just as it would be for a regular verb. Those two principal parts then, the first and the second, make up the present family. On the other side, if we were to draw a dotted line there, then we would have the perfect family. A deponent verb only has one principal part in the perfect family, conatus sum. That's going to be the perfect tense. There is no fourth principal part here because on a regular verb, the fourth principal part is already passive. So I can't take a passive principal part and make it even more passive for a deponent verb. That's why we only have three: conor, present; conari, infinitive; conatus sum, perfect. So here's our meanings. Conor means I try. And then we could conjugate that to you try, he tries, we try, y'all try, they try, etc., etc. Conari, as an infinitive, means to try, and we can see where that has a passive ending, A-R-I, but it has an active meaning, to try. And then conatus sum, that's the perfect tense, that means I tried, and we could conjugate that, conatus est, you try, conatus est, he tried, and so on. So let's take a look at a chart to see how this further works. This chart is also on page 99 in your book. So we've said that deponent verbs can exist in all four conjugations, and there we go. And we list our model verbs, conor, verior, loquor, and experior, by their infinitives. So conari, up at the top left, again, is to try. And then we can go down the list. The imperatives, remember that for a deponent verb, just like a passive verb, an imperative is going to look in the singular like an active infinitive, and in the plural like the second person plural in a passive verb. So conara means try, as in one person, try, a command. Conamini is if you're commanding a group of people, try. Then we get the present tense: conor, I try; conaris, you try; conatur, he tries; conamur, we try; conamini, y'all try; and then conantur, they try. So we have our endings in bold: aris, tur, mur, miniuntur. We have a stem, we have a vowel, just as we would expect. Moving further down into the imperfect, all we're going to add is a ba, like we would expect. So conabar is I was trying; conabaris, you were trying; conabatur, he was trying. And then I only listed those three, but we could keep going for we were trying, y'all were trying, they were trying. Our future, in the active, it would be bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. But in the passive here, or a deponent verb, it's conabor, I will try; conaberis, you will try; conabitur, he or she or it will try. And then again we could continue. When we get to the perfect family, the perfect tense, conatus sum, means I tried. We could further conjugate that with conatus est, est, conati sumus, conati estis, and conati sunt. The pluperfect, all we need to change is that second part of the combo. So instead of sum, we get eram, conatus, eram, I had tried. And then the future perfect, conatus, ero, I will have tried. So we do the same thing with the other verbs. Verior means fear or am afraid. Locor means speak or talk. And experior means to test or also to try. So with those verbs, you can run through the present, the imperfect, the future, and then the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect. Hopefully you're grasping by now that a deponent verb can exist in all 6 tenses. It has an infinitive. It has an imperative. But these are it for the forms. I can't have a passive form of a deponent verb. It doesn't make sense because their forms are already passive. We can't go double passive. It doesn't work. So these are the only forms that deponent verbs will have. There's a list of deponent verbs in your book. Starts on the bottom of page 99 and continues onto the top of page 100. These you're going to want to know. I would suggest making flashcards for them so that you can recognize them easily. First conjugation, deponent verbs, conor means try, moror means delay. Second conjugation, verior, like we said, means fear. In the third conjugation, we have a few. Collabor, collabi, collapsus sum means to collapse. Consequor, consequi, consecutus sum means to catch up or overtake. Locor means to speak. Proficiscor, to set out or leave. Sequor means to follow. And then gradior means to go, and depending on the prefix, you can go in a different direction. So you can agradior, you can go out or leave. Ingradior means to enter. And then regradior means to return or to go back. We also have a fourth conjugation, deponent verb experior, like we've already said. This means test or try. So once again, I would recommend that you make some flashcards for these and get to know them quickly. For some practice, I would try exercise 37B on page 100. It's going to give you some work with translating different forms into English. And then for homework for tomorrow, that would be Tuesday, the 27th, I'd like everybody please to bring in just number 1 from exercise 37D on page 100. So again, for homework tomorrow at the beginning of class on Tuesday, 37D, number 1, there's several sentences with forms of a deponent verb. I want you to translate those into English and bring them in. See you tomorrow.